Happy
Hey, Linda, how's it going?
Friday. Hi, hi.
Hi. Hi,
Um,
good meeting.
Nice to meet you. There is no name tag on your monitor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my
I'm
name's
Linda.
Derek Brandt. Yeah, my name's
Derek.
Derek.
Oh,
Yeah.
hi, Derek.
Hi.
How?
Hi.
Okay. So, is the meeting's gonna be one-on-one or is this gonna be panel? Are we waiting for the
Uh,
others?
there's going to be one more. I think there was going to be uh,
Lee.
two more, but they're sick today. So Lee is
Oh,
going to join us.
okay.
Uh,
Lee.
yeah. Lee
Lee.
Petty.
Okay, Lee
Yeah.
Patty. So both of you are in arts.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
the artist.
Yeah. We're both artists, but also project leads right now.
Okay,
Um,
okay,
yeah.
fantastic. Okay, fantastic. That's a
Okay.
luxury to be able to meet you guys. Hi,
Hello.
Lee. Hi.
Hi,
um,
I'm Lee. Sorry for being a little late here,
oh,
but
no problem. No, I think by industry standards, you're pretty prompt.
that's probably true, sadly.
Yes, you're pretty prompt, and all your tech is working. That's impressive too. So that
Yeah,
means your IT's doing a good job.
that's right. Yeah, and as long as we don't share any video or anything, we're fine. That's usually where it goes bad, Something's not optimized for video or the sound's not working or something along those lines. Yeah.
Okay. So Derek just said the other two are off sick today. Is that correct?
Yeah, unfortunately. So
Ouch.
it'll just be the two of us you're chatting with today.
I got blue off yesterday too because I wasn't able to meet with Kevin and
Oh, he was sick too. Yeah.
Jeff. So this must be
Like,
a pretty uh, endemic time of the season, right?
Seems like it. Yeah. I mean, it's the cold and flu season normally, plus whatever's going on with COVID and
Well, the
yeah,
weather was rough yesterday, so
yeah.
here we
yeah.
are, like 360-degree change today. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, maybe we could start. Like, do you mind just giving a little introduction, and then, or we should do that first, actually. Wait, yeah,
Why don't you start, Derek?
yeah, I'll start. Okay, so yeah, so my name's
Thank
Derek. Derek Brain, obviously, and we talked about that already. But I've been at Double Fine for 12 years, and started it as an artist, and still I'm an artist, but have recently been taking on more leadership role, and I'm a project lead currently, and yeah, pass it off to me.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lee Petty. I've been at Double Fine for 16 years, which is, by game industry standards, a lifetime. And I've been an art director and a project lead on several projects here, and I'm currently leading an unannounced project as well.
Oh, okay. Well, very nice meeting you. um, I'm Linda. I'm an FP&A professional, and I do have prior accounting background in both public and private accounting. So that stands out from the rest of the pack. Whenever I go into my role, I usually have added value giving to the team, giving to the organization, because it's not just rosy and adequate, in my opinion, to know about finance and to be able to model forecasts and projections, but also knowing that it is done right and it's done reasonably and it is all traceable. So this is why I always emphasize, hey, I've got added bonus. If you like to listen, this is what my story is. And let me just tell you a story here also. I like to tell story. So I'm a
Yeah,
little
great.
quirky, being an FP&A professional, so not just your regular pack. So back in 2019, I took a sabbatical, and when I came back to the Bay, I landed a role at Sony PlayStation. And the finance manager went out on a maternity leave, and they needed someone really highly skilled to be able to get up to speed in no time. And at the same time, they were willing to teach me everything, anything that I needed to learn about the video game industry. Now, full disclosure, I'm not a gamer, but I am super curious, just by nature. So that was a good seat to be in. Someone's very generous, someone's very open-hearted, someone's very down to earth, and didn't mind to train someone from outside of the industry, as long as you're open to learn. Because I have the depth to learn. I have the depth to absorb all the data sets, because Sony PlayStation was the first place back in 2019 when I heard the phrase metaverse. From the analytics person told me, and every week I got invited to the team meets, round table. Literally everyone had a say, and it didn't matter. Even though I was a contractor, I got to have my 5 minutes. And of course, when the others had their 5+ minutes, I digest, I absorbed. So I learned a great deal from that contract role. And that was the reason why, I was able to learn the 2 subsequent roles at Sledge. One of the 6 or 7 studios owned by Activision. Now, I told Denise, this job description is like a marriage of those 2 jobs. Would you like me to elaborate why?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess it would be nice to understand too exactly. I mean, obviously, finance is not my area of expertise, but Derek and I do interact with finance managers quite a bit because of project leadership. But I think maybe as a way of partly answering how that's a marriage. I mean, can you maybe highlight, because I'd love to know about what you did specifically with Sledgehammer and how you think maybe that would roll well into Double Fine. So maybe that's another way of answering that same question.
Because already Sledge was really, by industry video game studio standards, much larger. Now, the team size at Sony PlayStation, because it was only focusing on global strategy and physical disc sales. So the team size was smaller. We weren't about R&D development course. We were all about global strategy, sales,
like
marketing, partner marketing, co-marketing, and physical disc sales. So that was the niche. I was able to come in, integrate with all of my prior FP&A experience, because I already knew how to run an annual budget, and how to drive, and how to track, and how to forecast, and how to stand up and present. But what I didn't know was the industry. What I didn't know was the different game modes, and what I didn't know was the monetization and how they went about and talk about those. And whereas at Sledge, being a fully integrated studio, part of the Activision umbrella, they still sort of like had the mindset of sort of like an indie studio. They were pseudo hands-off because they didn't have Activision folks at the studio level with boots on the ground, but instead I was the liaison on a finance perspective. I was the only one first finance they hired full-time in decade 2, because they were growing through exponential growth. Size of 350 when I joined back in July 2021. So when I left,
Sledgehammer was 350 when you joined?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I didn't realize
they already had 2 offices, one in the US, Foster City, and the second one in Melbourne, Australia. They were going global. And when I left last year, it was edging towards 600. But mind you, beginning of 2 months ago, they pretty much like cut off all that they hired. They lay off about 250 2 months ago.
Wow.
So it's like roller coaster, I guess, yes. So my title there, and also it really represented, my focus was on operations. I needed to interact with studio leads, production teams, but mostly what we're talking about, maybe just give a good sense of ratio, it's over 100 people just on the supervisor or above level. So every month, because of the R&D cost reporting, I had to interact with them no matter where they were. I had to reach out. So every day I logged in about 16 hours. It was not an easy breezy job.
It doesn't sound like it. And what was that, what was that relationship like with you in Activision when you were coordinating, like, kind of what were they expecting out of you other than, frequent reporting apparently, but like what was that sort of relationship like, and how were you getting your budgets, and what sort of discussions were you involved around that process?
Exactly where I came from, I expected to have guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So because me being the liaison person, wearing the finance hat, I only had one boss, and that was the studio director, operations director. Someone's absolute industry veteran would be an equivalence to Denise role.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would in turn dumb down the information and retranslate them, or express, hey, there's a variation, or there's a discrepancy, or there's an inaccuracy. I try to explain the best I could without getting the audience frustrated or lost, because that's my number one goal every day. I don't expect people to know my universe, but my role is to guide them and let them know this is not quite what the reporting company wanted us to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always sort of like working on a crunch, working on a deadline, and I share that, and I let them know, and I message consistently, in different ways. And in order to be able to do that, I couldn't be just a solo person with no external resources, with no external help. Sure, at Activision, I had the studio finance team to guide me, to support me, and to sort of like boomerang and bounce around information. But I did have a communications coach whom I worked with regularly, just to get the techniques right, because what I learned, when we had meetings cross borders in different time zones, it's difficult, especially when it comes to processes. There's that much you could communicate,
Mm-hmm.
you could instruct. I couldn't read people's body languages.
Right. Yeah.
Reading
Challenge
vibes.
remote interactions for sure.
Yeah, and so to be on top of that and to be able to learn and ahead of that curve communication wise, I had to seek help externally. So that would be my next question at Double Fine. How do we support our team on a regular basis so that they have the resources to do their work adequately, if not, above and beyond. So what sort of like educational support resources that's available?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and those probably, like, I would generally say, like, that's a great question. And that's probably a question that someone like Kevin or Denise would answer in more detail than Derek and I. Like, most of our, I can speak to Microsoft a little bit, which is, would they, my interactions with them is mainly like when I'm working with the finance person, I'm trying to provide some clarity on the team needs in the upcoming fiscal year. And usually there's not a lot of surprises coming from the teams, but video games, like all forms of art and entertainment, are a little unpredictable. So sometimes we have to kind of be a little creative about how we can find money for additional contractors, for example, if something's slipping, because the overall goal of staying on time is more important than maybe short-term spend. So there's conversations along those lines. And I don't really interact with Microsoft on any financial budgetary stuff. But I do know that there's some changes going on because Microsoft has acquired the known world. They're kind of doing internal reorganization for studios that they own, and in case of Double Fine, we're what they call a limited integration studio. So we have slightly, and there's a bunch of us that are limited integration, so we have slightly different relationships than, say, a fully integrated studio. But I'm under the impression that they're kind of perhaps changing the way that they might be approaching budgets, so we have a little more direct control of our budgets. But I don't think that has happened yet.
Okay.
So I know that we've kind of had a flat budget, even though we need to grow a little bit for the last cycle. So that's, I think there's some challenges there. Creative thinking is going to be necessary.
So are you able to, just as a follow-on question, are you able to have visibility of the artist budget? Because even I remember at Sledge, pretty much the first week, I already had been explained, okay, this is what the breakdown of the 350, figure out already in front of me, the size of the arts team, the size of the engineering team, the size of the the VFX team, the size of blah blah. So there were about 23 to 27 departments.
Yeah, that's a little bit more than us. Like we're pretty because our size is relatively small, and we're a little more, let's say, organic with our structure, because we don't have to departmentalize as much because our teams aren't as big. So like the teams that Derek and I run are about 20 people, and our bigger teams usually cap out at 50 to 70. So there is certainly some departmentalization, right? We have, I don't know, let's say 5 or 6 major departments, and there's some specialties within them.
Right.
But that and the title structure for each of those departments have published salary bands within the company.
Yes.
So there's a pretty good amount of clarity in terms of who's doing what and what departments. Like a lot of studios, we have a difference between title and role. So, like for example, project lead isn't a title but a role. So Derek and I are probably would be still listed as art directors or in our team, and other project leads might be listed in game design or programming depending on their background. But our project roles are in that. Yeah. So and I think the contractors we work with, that sort of, most of the time it's a monthly rate or a day rate depending on who it is, and so it's pretty easy to track that. There's not a lot. We don't work with a lot of like giant outsourcing houses.
Okay.
Although Derek, I don't know, maybe you have some thoughts on. I know Derek has been doing code development on his project with an external team. I don't know if there's any.
Yeah. I actually, I mean, it kind of related to that. Most of my interactions with someone in this department would be requesting resources and planning out future, making sure that we have the resources to complete the game. And I was wondering if you could talk about how you go about mediating between like someone like myself who would be like project lead asking for like resources, and then Microsoft, who might have a limited set of resources that they might want to give us, and then company leadership, maybe like wanting to complete the game, but like maybe having more broader goals than just the project. And like how do you mediate between those three sort of departments or goals?
So usually in terms of importance, to give levels of significance to the cost or the spend, we identify by either needs from wants, needs over wants. That's the level of importance. So say for instance, if I give a timeline, depending on the year end, December 31st, most companies cut off their financial year. So as a pre-budgeting meeting, brainstorming, like around maybe August, July, you start having group discussions. This is when you're going to brainstorm those needs and wants. And we are going to pen them down and then go over, depending on maybe you have a number of game modes projects that you are working on or you will be committed to work on. And so you have to identify again, these are the needs and wants. And are we building basically from the headcount and then down to the physical resources like materials, costumes, or should I'm sorry, like hardware, software, and so we have to determine that. And because the needs and wants, some of them mostly, can be capitalizable. Others would be just expense, and they will be done project basis. If the end of the project, then that's it. We want to make sure we land before the period, so that there is no instances where we don't use, we lose. So again, that would be my job, to remind the team, to nudge them regularly. Hey, you have mentioned you're going to spend that by Q2, and we're now halfway through Q2. Is that going to be materialized? Is there a PO requisitions stuck in someone's drawer? Something like that. Bottlenecks. So we want to identify those, and we want to make sure they become spent. The PO will be churned out and be sent to vendors, so you can spend that. So because the parent company, so for instance, Xbox would want to see the realization, so that they don't just grant approval and then not seeing the spend actually land. So you want to be trustworthy. You want to actually say you're going to spend, and then you will spend. And so this is how we gain credit. So is that a good answer?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about like how you mentioned brainstorming like needs and wants, but what do you have a process for gathering that sort of information from like Activision in the past? How do you start to understand their needs and wants, and how do you like help communicate that to
Yes.
like the integrated or
Yes.
limited integration studio?
Absolutely. Historical data is usually where I start off from, because, oh, by the way, I think next year is going to be the Silver Jubilee, right? For you guys.
Is it?
Yeah, 25th.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history.
Yeah, it is.
So it could be like starting from vendors 20. So decade 2, maybe 66. I don't know. I'm just throwing out whatever numbers. So number of vendors, I can like however way sort them, find out the history, because history always tells us where your footsteps have been. And you spent this much last year. Are you projecting? Are you anticipating you're going to spend more or same level, or are you going to? So what's the story? What is the preview? We have a talking point whenever we look at history, and this is how automatically you're going to be able to add new vendors. And this is also the starting point. You're going to get operations at work to reach out to the new vendor if you don't already have one identified. So that sort of thing. So have I answered your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and like that makes sense. Yeah.
So also, if headcount stay unchanged, usually is maybe it's pretty predictable work. But if headcount changes, that's definitely inevitably gonna drive a more varied spend for the foreseeable future. Because people trigger costs.
It turns out you gotta pay people. I think one of the other sort of, maybe, I don't know, I'm not gonna say it's unique to Double Fine, but something that is perhaps different at a company like Sledgehammer, who has like a single big tentpole project that they're trying to repeat, like Call of Duty. They're just working on year after year after year after year. Double Fine is very dynamic, and we work on very different types of games all the time. And so it's not always clear what's a need or a want, because when you're in a creative discovery, it adds unpredictability and risk, but that's what we do. And so, I think that's that's challenging, and there's a lot of different project leaders. Some like I've led a lot of projects, but a lot of people are maybe newer at it or don't or choose to do it once. And, no, it's not a critique. It just means like everyone's got like a different way of doing things a little bit, and we try to support that within reason because we want people to find that unique voice that they have to bring to the games and the teams. But it does mean we have to be tolerant of some of those challenges and find ways to work, with each other. And so I think that's where, I think that's just kind of like what I'd say about Double Fine's environment is it's maybe a little different. And I think that's the sort of challenge we have here. And part of that is just built on good human relations and communication with one another, knowing that we have these goals and why it's important to the spirit of the company, So
I could relate.
How do you feel about that?
I could relate. I mean, just off record, of course, they even at Sledge, they did have projects that were worked on. Some teams is just never come out of daylight, or sometimes they would get completely killed off. So that happened, yes. But money were keeping going, and they were spending money on those dark projects.
Right.
So the development costs, the varied investment costs happened during the time when I was at Sony PlayStation, because the strategy team, obviously by nature, they had a pretty wide handful of different game titles, because at that desk on a regular daily basis, even not just to the month end or quarter end, I would be looking at over 200 game titles. That was the time when I started asking or learning, not just third party in general, but what do these game titles mean? And what did you mean by indie game studios? Not just people wearing green and purple hair, but in fact, it was actually, Sony did hire a new person, dedicated 101% to indie game studios, and she did have green and purple hair. So
see, that's what it is. we do have a few folks with pretty colorful hair. Not Derek, not. Yeah.
So that piqued my interest. So what they call internally, I believe, is pretty universal everywhere I went on learning, also at Activision, but OID, outside investment, or outside investment development costs on new games. At Sledge were 101% handled at Activision level, whereas at Sony PlayStation, it was within the global strategy team's budget. But mind you, the team was about 120, so it's fairly sizable. So I did feel very localized, because it's a smaller team within the Sony umbrella, corporate umbrella, and yet there was enough resources, there were enough landscape, there were enough structure for me to really have a good sense of everything that I was learning, that I was absorbing, because it moved so fast, it was so powerful, it was also so interesting too, culture-wise. So I realized I wanted to learn I wanted to work in a place, if I'm going to be spending nearly 10 hours every day plus the commute, I wanted to have fun as well doing my work, because I think having a fun working environment is equally important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think see your next round of interviews showing up. So
okay.
just thank
Time
you for your
flies.
time. It's great chatting with you, and we'll talk later.
Yes.
Thanks,
Well, thank you very much, Derek and Lee. Bye bye.
Have a good day.
Have a good day too. Bye bye. Hello.
Hi, Linda.
Hi. Good morning.
there.
Good morning. And
Good.
And you must be
I'm This is
oh.
Isabella. I'm the
Isabella.
systems administrator, and Isabella is the front desk / facilities.
Oh, hi. So do we have Monica and
Monica,
Huh?
and Aaron?
yeah,
As
I
well?
think,
Adam,
yeah.
if you jump
Nice
in,
to meet
that's
you,
what
by
they
the
are.
way.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
There's Monica.
Hello. Hi, you must be Monica.
Hi, yeah.
Hi,
how are
happy
you?
Friday. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yes.
Oh, we've been chatting on email, so. Nice to-
Oh, okay. What time do they usually start on for you guys? When do you begin
what-
your working day? Same time zone for everyone?
All
Hello.
of us except for Aaron are in San Francisco for the most part. Aaron's in Hawaii.
Oh, okay. Aloha. How wow, how privileged. Hi, Aaron.
Yeah, it's
Good afternoon, right? It's noontime already.
for you. No, it's
No, it's
8 a.m.
behind.
No, he's early. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
start early,
Oh,
which
okay.
turns out I like them.
Well, thank you very much for your time this morning to meet with me and to get to know a little bit about me as a worker bee. And I'm very excited to be hopping on and to this call and to hear more about every one of you, about Double Fine, and hopefully you have some curious questions to ask about me. So yes.
We didn't discuss who's going first, did we?
No, we didn't.
So, what's making you decide to apply for Double Fine?
I think the agency came to me.
Yeah.
But in general, I could fall back. I mean, a few years ago, I decided or I noticed video game industry was where I would like to build my skill sets, solidify my skill sets, because I want to do tough brain work and have some fun along the way. And 5 years ago, when I got a contract role at Sony PlayStation, I was able to do just that. And I realized, wow, I couldn't get enough of it. And the kicker there was I got to read over 200 game titles